Good morning and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate Podcast. Today we are on episode number 120 and we have Ashley Lowe coming back and we're going to continue our conversation diving deeper into Ashley being an introvert and how she overcomes being an introvert and succeeds, and not only succeeds but excels in the world of real estate. Ashley Lowe, welcome back.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So Ashley, now you've got a little podcast experience under your belt
Yes.
as an introvert. It's not that hard, right? Anybody can do this.
You know what? It is helpful that it's just in front of a screen and not in front of actual people. It definitely makes it a lot easier. So I'm super grateful that you're having me on here. It's really helping me step out of my comfort zone, and I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, actually, I'm an introvert too, and you and I have spoken about this many times. And public speaking freaks me out. I still do it. I'm not comfortable to this day.
And
Um,
you have your own podcast.
yeah, imagine 120 times I have to do this and feel uncomfortable and come out of my shell and push myself out of my limit. But like David Corman said the on the last podcast, we do it to inspire, we do it to help, we do it to help the industry. And David Corman has been doing amazing webinars for the brokerage for over 30 years. And during COVID, David Corman and I sat down and I said, David, how do we get this to more in front of more realtors? Like how do we get this amazing information to the industry? How do we make a bigger impact? And we kind of brainstormed and we said, you know what, let's do a podcast. So it's open not only to my brokerage, but it's open to everybody. Right. So I think when you have a higher purpose, when you have a higher calling, it's easier to, push through some of those obstacles and just do what needs to get done.
And I really am curious, from hearing from both of you more about considering yourselves like introvert type of personalities. Like I've never thought of myself that way. Um, I've had a lot of leadership training, when I was growing up, most of it through sports and attending leadership camps and conferences and playing on teams and stuff like that. But there was always a ball in play or a something. So no matter what you're saying to your teammates, trying to be a leader to them, you could just make a difference in your actions when you're actually playing the game and show leadership that way. And I could tell you that in my professional life, even going back 30 years ago, like Dave said, like when first time I did a seminar in person, even though I knew exactly what I was going to talk about and like I'm like nervous. You get nervous when you're talking in front of people. You get nervous making a speech at a wedding or at a function or making a toast or a roast. At any time, it takes a while for, I think, anybody who's not an introvert to get into a comfort zone. So I'd like to hear more about from you, like how you sort of I don't know, self-diagnose as an introvert and what does that mean? Like what are the traits?
I mean, for me, it would just be that I don't love being in big groups. If I'm in a really big group of people, I probably wouldn't say a thing. Versus if I'm one-on-one, I'm a chatty Cathy for sure. So I think that for me, that's a sign that I'm an introvert. And I just like to be alone at home. If it was my ideal situation, it would just be me on my couch. And so I think that I do like being in groups, and I feel like I have, friends, and I like to go out, obviously, but I think where I'm most comfortable is alone.
Yeah, Dave, I think the best way I can explain it is that when you look at energy, I think an extrovert thrives and adds to the energy of a group. And I think when you're in a group of people as an introvert, I think it takes a lot of energy away from you, right? So when I go to a conference, at the end of a 12-hour day, I'm exhausted. I have nothing left in the tank. Like my energy is completely depleted, right? Whereas if you're like I have a really good friend of mine that's an extrovert and who is really high up in terms of building relationships with one of the leading organizations, and I look at him interact, and he just keeps thriving on the energy. He just loves it, right? It's just like it builds them up. Whereas like in a group of people, my energy is going out the other way. And it's something that, as a leader, I have to be very mindful and I have to manage that. And it's just a lot more work to be in those situations.
That's so funny that you just said that, because as soon as you said that, I picture me and Matt. So Matt is the chair of YPN this year, and he is a social butterfly. Him and I are complete opposites. And you see him and he's out there talking to people. He really gets energy from that. Versus with me, I'm just thinking about when I can just do my own thing. But doesn't mean I don't like talking to people and getting to know, but I just very much prefer the one-on-one conversations.
1000%. Yeah.
Interesting. So it's a perfect profession to be in, I think, in real estate, because you're generally, your clients, it's one person, it's two people. An investment property might be a slightly bigger group, 3 or 4 people, but it's always going to be a relatively small group, that or a one-on-one where you're going to be explaining your expertise, and then you've got a comfort zone because you've got the expertise, and you're comfortable to talk to them on a one-on-one or a one-on-two basis because you're within your comfort zone, as opposed to having a profession where you're always having to do, like if we were doing a live podcast right now at somewhere with a bunch of people watching, I'm just guessing you wouldn't be as comfortable and as candid and in talking.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't believe, like, I'm probably the worst realtor to talk to about systems and all that stuff because I'm not very good at that. And I don't think I built my business like that at all. And so while most people, I think, have a listing presentation, they have something formal that they walk people through, that's more to me like an extroverted thing. Versus for me, I get my clients by building relationships. So it might not be just a one time, like I'm not very impactful if you just meet me once. But I feel like if we have a conversation and then we have a coffee and I get to know you a little better, that's when I feel like I build my relationships and I get my clients that way. And so, when we're speaking about how to do a listing presentation, like I'm the worst, like I don't even have one.
Well, I know one common trait that I seem to find with successful realtors is their ability to get to know their clients because they're good listeners. So, they know that what they want to present or they know what they want to tell them. But before they get to that point, they're just good listeners in terms of understanding what the client or a potential client wants and needs and what they're looking for, what their lifestyle is about, what their family situation is. And I think that makes them better realtors because that's an important quality, not just the braggadocio, give me your listing because I've sold so many and I can sell this and blah blah blah. I think people are looking for that little more of that personal relationship. I want you to find the perfect house for me and my family to live in, not I don't want to just be another number to you.
Yeah, and I find that really interesting with people too, is that I don't know if you felt this over the years, David, but sometimes a client will say, I like this, this, and this, but then you have to really read between the lines because sometimes you think about it and the end result, whatever house it is that they're ecstatic with, is not necessarily what they said in the first place. It really transformed into something else. And I think it really is about having that relationship and being able to listen to what people are saying and reading between the lines and have seeing those nuances. Um, to be able to find them something that's right for them in terms of a purchasing situation, or even in terms of selling, what they're really looking for when they're trying to, find the right realtor for them to sell.
Yeah, I think communication is 90% nonverbal, right? So if you're only listening to them and you're not looking for other cues and other bodily reactions and other uh, little cues that will tell you whether they like something, whether they don't like something, how they're reacting to certain situations, then I think you're missing 90% of that communication style. So I think listening is extremely important, but like you said, Ashley, I think it's, reading between the lines and really getting to know your client and really being observant with how they're reacting, how they're, you walk into a big open space, you look at the reaction. You see an open kitchen, you look at the reaction. You see that ravine backyard, you gauge their reaction. And by listening, by looking, by experiencing, by being really in touch, you really get to know them, and you get to know what really drives them, and what's right for them, what's not right for them. So it's a process, and I think as introverts, we're very in tune with all those reactions, right? We're very in tune with how they're feeling, with what they're saying, with what they're experiencing, and that's why I think introverts make great salespeople.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, as you said, being in tune, I feel like introverts are maybe like even more sensitive in that way. So then really picking up the little things. And I feel like that really goes a long way in terms of helping your clients, because even wanting to be a little bit of a chameleon, like you in your lifetime, obviously you have different personalities for clients. And so, one personality type, you might change a little bit in terms of how you might present something versus another person. And so being able to tell the difference between that maybe personality and then acting accordingly is extremely helpful, I think.
Well, I can certainly see the advantages in your industry of having an introvert type of personality. For that point of view, what I can't figure out, when you're starting out, is how does an introvert do cold calls and and farm a territory when they've got nothing? Like how do you do that when you're so far out of your comfort zone? Because you run out of friends and family pretty fast when you start out, right?
Yeah, I definitely tried doing that. I went door knocking, I did some cold calling, open houses as well. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, I realized I just didn't thrive in that environment. And I basically, and I still do this today, where I just double down on what I think I'm good at, which is building relationships. So, I went to the people who thought very highly of me and asked them for referrals, talked about real estate more with them. This was at a time when social media or the internet was becoming more popular too. And so, not wanting to speak to people, I focused a lot on online marketing. And so I think I just decided to double down on my strengths almost, and decided that, I'm not going to do what everyone else is going to do, because that doesn't suit my personality. And that's just not right for me. And so I got to do what's right for me. And it's helped me in the long run, I think.
I think building trust is the cornerstone of being a successful realtor, right? And I think as an introvert, we go about building trust in a very different way, right? Because we have deeper, more authentic conversations. We don't like small talk. Like, we're not about us. We're about the clients, right? And it's easier to build that trust in those relationships. As an extrovert, you do it too, but you do it in a very different way, right? So, I think the tenacity to have deeper conversations as opposed to small talk just really gets you into that trusted relationship in a faster, more effective way as an introvert with your client. And in real estate, you're transacting one of the biggest transactions that the client's going to have. If you don't have trust, then you don't really have a relationship.
In the previous episode, we talked a little bit about my previous job and all that. And I think sometimes with extroverts and introverts, like there's that saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so sometimes if I'm against, quote unquote, an extrovert, maybe they seem like a lot more impressive initially because I'm just doing my own thing and I don't say much. But I think, that's where over the years, I've also learned that sometimes I do need to advocate for myself. And that's something that I've needed to work on in the last 10 years, that, I really do need to try to push myself and advocate for myself sometimes, if somebody is going to make a quick judgment for something.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to all the introverts out there is, don't be afraid of, spending a little bit more energy and advocating for yourself and get yourself into uncomfortable situations. And I think if you are yourself and you're authentic and you're empathic with whoever you're trying to build a connection with, I think good things are going to happen. So I think that's a great message to share with our audience.
Yeah, I think it's also being thorough in what you do, doing your research, being prepared, being knowledgeable, because your expertise helps to give you confidence. I know, even like David mentioned, all the seminars and webinars I do, the thing that gave me anxiety about doing any of those things in person or in a webinar was not the material that I was going to present initially. It's what are the questions I'm going to get at the end? Am I going to be able to answer the questions that come out of it? And they might be on topic, they might be off topic, but every single time I do one right now, same thing. I have this thing, okay, I'm done. I know my material is, I know it pretty well when I'm presenting. Now, what are they going to ask me? And am I going to be able to answer those questions? And that's what gets me nervous and gets the juices flowing, because you want to succeed that way. So the best way to try and overcome that, I find, is to be as prepared as I possibly can, to do my homework, to be up to date and things like that. And that's hard, but no matter how many years you're doing it, like I could do one today. I think I'm doing one tomorrow, actually, for David's office. And I know that I'm going to get to that point. Okay, finished my presentation. I'm out of slides. What are you going to ask me? And it's going through my head. I hope I can answer the question.
David, I'm
Yeah.
going to have to prepare some questions for my realtors just
Go
to,
easy on me.
throw you a little bit off.
My favorite answer is, I'll get back to you on that one.
I know it's important to have that prepared response of not knowing the answer.
And that's not really a topic for today's seminar. We'll do a whole seminar on that topic.
I agree with you though. Preparation is definitely key, and also practice, obviously. Why I'm here is definitely wanting to practice stepping out of my comfort zone so that I feel more comfortable with doing these. And so luckily, preparation is also important, but luckily if I'm speaking about my life, I know my life really well. So that definitely is helpful.
Yeah, it's easier to be prepared.
Yeah.
Awesome, Ashley. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us again and talking about a topic that's I think important to talk about, because I think as an introvert, there's a lot of introverts out there who want to build successful sales careers, and they stop themselves from taking that first step. So if you're listening to this podcast, I think as an introvert, I think it gives you a secret power, a superpower, if you will. And I think there are a lot of successful introverts, myself and Ashley included, that do extremely well and who are really successful business owners. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're an introvert, we'd love to hear from you. Love to share your story with us, and we'd love to hear what you're doing to overcome some of the challenges you face every day, and how you get the courage and the energy to persevere in some of these situations. Awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us. And Ashley will have you back on the next episode, and we're going to talk about real estate investing. So thanks for tuning in, and tune in next time.
Thanks, Ashley.